Welcome, all you sinners and sodomites, to episode 4 of Bible Stories for Atheists. I am Josh.
I'm Linz.
And we are your guides to the habitually holy stories, literally, literarily littering the Bible.
How many of those did you say you had?
A list.
All right.
An unspecified number
Oh, okay.
that I'm going to have to keep adding to.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. I had an interesting couple weeks.
Yes.
Between episodes where I was kind of going down a nostalgic rabbit hole.
Yes, you were.
Yes, I did. Yes, I was. And yes, I still am, kind of.
You are.
So what I haven't mentioned on the podcast before is that when I was a kid, I was half the time growing up Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
Which is really an interesting offshoot of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
It's you know, some people are going to have different viewpoints on it. Personally, I think it's a cult.
Yeah.
And it's totally a cult.
I mean, I knew some J-Dub kids growing up.
Yeah.
And they were perfectly lovely children, but like, you know, they were the weird kids because they never had
no birthdays.
They couldn't do the holiday parties with us and stuff like that.
Can't do the Pledge of Allegiance.
And it was like, you never got invited to their house. They
Right.
could never come over to your, like, they seemed to live a very solitary sort of existence.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. So to shed a little light on what it's like growing up as a kid, I came across this last week. This is what brought me down the rabbit hole. Was this old storybook that I had when I was a kid over at my dad's house that is a Jehovah's Witnesses book of Bible stories. It's called My Book of Bible Stories.
Right. Very ambiguous. You wouldn't know that it is specific to the
witnesses.
No.
And anybody who wants to can find these stories online on jw.org. That's their website, the Jehovah's Witnesses. You just Google Jehovah's Witnesses, My Book of Bible Stories, and you'll find it. I went on eBay. I bought for really cheap a used copy.
It's like if you leave out what it says on the front.
Yeah.
Like it is a really pretty book.
It kind of is. Yeah. It's yellow. It's a yellow book with red, kind of a shiny embossed lettering on front.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah,
like,
very simple.
Just very sort of retro-y looking.
Yeah,
right?
it's copyright 1978, and this is absolutely like the copy I had, not the exact copy, but this is exactly what I had when I was a kid. And it's full of illustrations. They cram, the thing is like less than half an inch thick, like
it's
the actual
small
pages. But they cram over 100, like somewhere around 150 stories into it. And there's tons of illustrations that I have got to say, these illustrations, I still have nightmares today with the imagery from these illustrations. And it's like, how the hell did they ever make this into a children's book? Right? There's some nice stuff in there too, like the Garden of Eden.
Is this about the beginning of...
That's the beginning of time.
Okay.
This is Lindsay's first time looking at this.
So
I got this.
It looks like a scene you would see in like a book about dinosaurs.
Kind of, yeah. So we're seeing lava and volcanoes and stuff like that. And so that's like before the Garden of Eden.
Forming the earth.
Yep.
And then we have the Garden of Even.
The Garden of Even Stevens.
Where he's making all the aminals.
Yes. Yep.
And they all exist together in climates that are not what they live in today.
Right.
There's a fucking kangaroo.
Kangaroo next to elephants and lions.
Swan. Some sheep.
Yeah.
Horses running in the background.
Yep.
A parrot.
It's just everything all living there all together.
Yep. And then we have Adam and Eve.
Yep.
Where's the color on this one?
Yeah, so some of them don't have color, and I actually kind of feel like I might be wrong, but I think a later edition of this must have had full color.
Yeah.
Because I think some of these had color that when I was a kid that don't now. But some of them are just black and white drawings.
These children, this child has nipples. This child does not.
Yeah.
Probably because that's a girl.
Probably.
And that one's crying.
Yeah. So
is this Adam and Eve's babies?
Yes.
I thought they only had 2.
No, they had multiple.
Okay.
There's only 2 that really
matter.
Yeah.
Oh, and here they are. One killing the other.
Yep.
In a pool of blood.
Yep.
And he leaves the weapon behind. And he's very upset by it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of blood.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of blood with that person that's dead. And then there's another picture of somebody just being killed.
Yep.
Right there on the next page.
Next to them.
Yeah.
And then here's a dude who's upset about something along with some ladies who are clearly prostitutes, perhaps.
Right. That's a story about giants, apparently.
Those are some big guys.
Yeah.
Just picking
it's funny because they say
up
that
by the throat.
They say that there were giants at this point, and then I looked up the Bible verse, and that is not what it says.
Well, didn't that one guy?
There's David and Goliath.
Goliath was a giant-y guy, right?
He was supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had to come from somewhere.
This is long before that ever happened.
Yeah, he had to come from somewhere.
Maybe there's something to that. I don't know, but I just know that the verse that they reference doesn't have anything to do with that.
What is going on here? So this is the Noah story.
So this is the Noah story. That's people laughing at Noah for building the ark.
They thought that is terrifying laugh faces.
Yeah, I know.
They look like they're in pain.
And they also look like they're twins.
Well, yeah.
Like they
look
clearly
like they're villains from 1940s black and white films.
Yeah. They clearly used the same models over and over again for a lot of these images.
Were there a lot of blonde women and men existing in the, I don't know, fucking North African, Middle Eastern area back then?
So 145 illustrations. There's pretty much 0 people of color.
Right. Yeah. Which is crazy because if one thing the Jehovah's Witness had going for them was that they accepted.
Were very inclusive.
Yes, because they wanted to grow their numbers.
Right.
So they didn't care.
Yeah.
They were.
That's why so many African American families in the U.S. did end up becoming Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, weren't the Jacksons?
The Jacksons.
And then Prince became a Jehovah's Witness.
Was a Jehovah's Witness. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Michael Jackson, for those interested, Michael Jackson got disfellowshipped, as I understand it, because of Thriller.
Oh, because of the undead?
Out. Yeah.
The people coming back to life?
Yeah. That got him kicked out.
Interesting.
Yeah, so since we can't really, like, you can see some of these images. Oh, yeah.
Is that Abraham killing his son?
Isaac, yeah.
Does he kill Isaac?
No, he doesning.
I didn't think so. I was like, we talked.
We'll get into that story. We haven't covered that story yet.
What a thing to put in a fucking kid's book, though. Okay, first of all,
he kind of looks like he's about to cut a cake.
He's covering his eyes.
Yeah, the son. Yeah, he's covering Isaac's eyes.
His hands are bound.
Yeah,
he's on the most uncomfortable. Why on sticks?
Just because he's probably going to burn his body afterwards.
Then there's this fucking ram in a bush.
Yeah, that's part of the story. Yeah.
Just watching from a bush.
Yeah. Like, I don't really want to get involved in this.
Oh, there's the
story of Lot.
Yep. She is. That's a salt woman. And
yep. That really stuck out in my mind.
Yeah, it is. It's horrifying looking.
Yeah,
because they didn't even make her like a statue-y looking. It looks like a melty.
So this is Lot's wife as a pillar of salt while hellfire rains down on Sodom and Gomorrah behind them.
Right.
So since this is kind of like, you are able to go and see some of these illustrations on their website if you look this up. Oh yeah, the story of cutting the baby in half. Oh my god, that's in there. That's an illustration where they're about to cut this baby in half.
Foot.
So 145 illustrations I counted throughout this, 5 of which have kids crying in there. There's 6 illustrations of dead people, at least one dead person in the illustration. 11 illustrations of people about to die. There's 54 illustrations, so more than a third of them are depicting people who are sad or are in distress in some way. It's a children's book.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's 6 dead animals throughout it, like either sacrifices or dead from some other reason. I thought it would be interesting to I also noticed that, especially in the beginning of Genesis, there's 13 illustrations of shirtless men. Mm-hmm. 7 of which have more than one man in the illustration. It was just kind of like there's a lot of shirtless men.
Yeah.
Showing up.
Yeah, there is. Especially when there's plagues. None of them are wearing shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, they show plagues. They're showing people covered in sores.
Oh, crying baby they found in the river. That was Moses.
Yep.
Look at that cute little girl with braids who's clearly probably from Ohio.
She totally looks like she is from Ohio. She looks like she's the little girl from Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, even the Egyptians look white.
Yeah, real white. Every once in a while you get some darker complexions on them.
Yeah, but it's very subtle.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
This is real fucked up.
So this is what I grew up reading.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the Catholics, is this... Oh,
that's the Technicolor Dream Coat.
That's the Technicolor Dream Coat?
Yeah.
Well, that's not impressive.
No, it's not
It's
very
a robe.
good. Yeah.
Like a little caftan.
It looks like something the dude would wear.
I really wish that they leaned into the brothers' jealous faces a little bit more.
Right, yeah. I like how one of them has red hair.
Well, I mean, his uncle is Esau.
Yeah. Actually, so
it runs in the genes.
Actually, there is an illustration of Jacob and Esau there when they were kids. Right there.
Oh.
You just pass it.
It's in black and white.
It's in black and white, but I did find, this is what made me realize.
Look at how hairy he is.
Yeah. What I realized was on their website, that illustration actually does have color.
Oh.
And they gave him red hair.
Yeah. Was his body hair red?
Including chest hair and stuff like that. Yeah. So he's like 10 years old there or something like that. And he still already has like crazy amount of chest hair and stuff.
It's funny because the pants they put on him or skirt or whatever it is that he's wearing is furry.
Yeah.
It's a fur skirt. It makes him look like a...
fawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought so too. He totally looks like Mr. Tumnus.
Yes. 100%. That's so funny. Wow, this is wild. So, we had children's Bibles growing up, and they often came with illustrations. And, I didn't ever read them long enough to kind of get into how disturbing the pictures were.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how this compares to other religions' children's Bibles.
I know.
We should look into that and see if this is... I mean, it's just fucked up. This is a scene from Colorado.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are they at?
The one you're looking at here is paradise. So
okay.
Once everybody's dead,
we all
in the
go
end
to
of the
Colorado.
world, we all go to Colorado.
Yeah.
And so do all the animals.
Yes.
There's more of that if you go to the back.
Here's the happy white family on this side, and way over here across the river is the tiny little brown family.
Yeah. Yeah. If you flip to the back, there's some more images of paradise that I really remember from being a kid.
These ones?
Yeah. Where the little
seasons?
girls playing with the baby lion right next to the parent lions.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they inject some ethnicity into diversity into the last page.
Yeah, they do there. And then right there with the last one shows 3 children of all different races.
Sitting around reading
the book you're reading.
They get very meta with the whole thing.
It gets really meta, yeah. And then they have the Bible setting aside.
Right.
So that they can read this. So thinking of the fact that this is for Jehovah's Witness children to read, I want to go back to one thing I was interested in was looking up the story of Dinah.
Okay.
Which we learned about in the second episode.
Yep.
And just a quick recap on it. Dinah was the only daughter of Jacob. According to this, especially, it's the only daughter of Jacob. She met up with some friends of hers in Canaan. She got raped by this guy named Shechem. Her brothers convinced Shechem to have all the men in the town to get circumcised. And so that they could trade wives and all would be forgiven kind of thing. And then they... 3 days later, once all the men were recovering from getting circumcised, they went in and killed everybody in the town.
Right.
So Jacob gets pissed at them because they're making him and them obnoxious to the entire region. The story ends with this question that the book is asking the reader. How did all this trouble get started? It was because Dinah made friends with people who did not obey God's laws. We will not want to make such friends, will we? That's how that story ends. The girl that's the story right there.
Dinah gets into trouble.
Yeah.
So she makes friends with these women on the bottom who are floozies, clearly.
Right.
Because they're showing a lot of skin and wearing color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where she looks very virginal in her white pajamas.
Right.
It was because Dinah made friends with people who did not obey God's laws. We will not want to make such friends, will we?
Right.
That's what a fucked up indoctrination for children.
Yeah.
That's literally like, again, as we were talking, you could never go over to their houses or invite the kids who were Jehovah's Witnesses over to yours, because it's not just people who don't, like, 8-year-olds aren't like hard atheists, right?
No.
Like, you're not going to meet an 8-year-old. It's likely that you could convince an 8-year-old to believe in God. They also believe in Santa and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny and shit like that. But they're basically telling Jehovah's Witness kids, like, you only get to play with other Jehovah's Witnesses kids. Right.
And so, and it's important to point out that it's not just other Jehovah's. I mean, it is specifically other Jehovah's Witness kids. It's not like you can't
other Christian kids.
Can't be like other Christian kids. Yeah.
You can't go hang out with those Catholic kids over there.
Right.
They don't believe the same things we do.
Right. They're not going to be going to heaven.
Right.
Or to paradise.
Right.
So.
Right, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in
hell? Or is that what
what is the thing? What is it?
Oh, for getting into heaven and all that?
Only a certain number.
Yeah, it's 144,000,
okay.
If I remember right, is the number that's in the book of Revelation.
Okay.
That's the
cap.
God tells 144,000 a secret, and Jehovah's Witnesses interpret that to mean they're the ones that are going to be allowed to go into heaven. Everyone else who's a true Jehovah's Witness is going to a paradise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is going to be earth. God will make a paradise of earth.
Yes. What's the difference between heaven and paradise?
I don't know.
Did they ever teach that? Do they teach it in here?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't read through all of it yet, but I do want to. I do kind of want to go through it. But yeah, I saw that, and so it's so fucked up. Just to summarize this, they're blaming her for getting raped, and they're blaming her for her brothers going out and killing everybody in that town.
Of course.
Even though she had nothing to do with that in that story.
No. No.
And they do all that just to get kids to not be friends with non-Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's an important thing to point out too, is it's not like against the rules to be friends with people who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. Technically, you're supposed to
you got to bring them in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But not real friends.
Yeah. Like the only people you're not supposed to hang out with are people who were Jehovah's Witnesses who left.
Right. Yeah, that's real fucked up. This whole book is real fucked up. Yeah. I mean, all of these books are real fucked up. But this is especially fucked up. I'm going to have to read through this.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I realize I have a lot of stuff to think about when it comes to my own childhood.
Yeah,
and like the choices my dad made about giving a book like this to his kid.
I mean,
and that's the thing, you don't question this stuff when you're a Jehovah's Witness. This is what got put out by the witnesses, the organization, and so you buy it,
right?
Because you have to buy this stuff, and you give it to your kids because it has to be okay because the organization put it out,
right? I mean, it's not like they were behind the scenes touching little kids or anything.
No. I know.
I like the little disclaimer they put at the front. Bible quotations in this book are paraphrased. They are put in simple language so that young children can get the sense of them. Citations at the end of each story provide the Bible source.
You see how many books they made?
What is that? 48,600,000? And that was at the time this specific book was published.
Yeah.
Which was 1978. Wait. No, that's just the copyright. That's not when this book was printed, right? Don't they need to renew copyrights every year?
I don't.
For books?
Not that Not that I know of.
Usually books will put like the print date on the Bible, on the book too, but I don't see like an actual print date.
I know. I wasn't getting it. I was curious, like, is this a first edition or what?
Right. Interesting. Sure. And 118 languages.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is they don't use this anymore, or they do, or you don't know.
I don't know. It's like I said, it's available for free online, so you can get a look at it. They don't have the full illustrations in it, but you can kind of get an idea for how crazy it is.
Again, it's so pretty.
I know, it really is. It was so weird. It's so weird when I saw it. I was like, it's just the image of the book itself.
Yeah,
like, really.
It's real. They did
rooted deep.
Yeah, yeah. And if you do want to buy the book to take a look at it, like, buy it from eBay. Right.
Don't buy it through them.
Right.
Yeah. Don't. Right. You don't want to give these people your money.
No. Unless you're still following the Jehovah's Witness path, but I would be super shocked if you had made it this far in this podcast.
Yeah.
So I guess congrats to you if you have. Still.
So we should probably wrap up the intro since.
Oh yeah, since this is almost as long as the actual podcast.
A whole actual episode to go. This week we're starting with Genesis chapter 37, Joseph, now in Technicolor. So yeah.
That's how we're starting. So are you already recording?
Yeah.
How long have you been recording?
Forever.
Did you record my whole rent thing?
Not all of it.
Oh, okay.
I got some of it.
All right.
Basically that you hate Rent.
Oh,
that's what I took away from that.
No. It's so wrong.
And was that wrong? Do you actually really like Rent?
I enjoy Rent greatly.
Do you know it way better than I do?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
If we were doing another podcast about Rent, it would be me leading you through Rent, and not you leading me through the Bible.
Right. And I'd be like, wait. They did the math on the minutes.
But of course, I think we could only get through like 3 actual podcasts if I were doing a Rent podcast, right?
Because it'd be really short.
Yeah, so there's not a lot there.
I don't know. I feel like there are people out there who are very good at stretching that stuff out.
I'm not one of those people.
No.
I like it. That's the end of the podcast.
I like it. That's the end of the podcast. One episode. Last week we were talking about Balaam. But before that, we were talking about Jacob, and this is going to be kind of a continuation of the story of Jacob.
Okay.
So just to kind of remind you about some of the main points of where we left off, Isaac died.
Yep.
Which was Jacob's father.
Yep. We
presume his mother has died, but they never told us about that. Rachel died, the wife that he actually loved.
Yes, in 90-year-old childbirth.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. And she died giving birth to the youngest son, Benjamin, who is Joseph's only full brother.
Okay.
Right.
So Rachel?
It was Rachel.
Only had 2 children herself.
Yep, Joseph and Benjamin.
And do you happen to know how many years apart they were?
We don't know. Okay. And I actually, while I was going through this, that was something that was it looks like that's kind of debated. Because there's no clear definition of how long they were apart, but we don't know for sure.
Okay. There's no chapter of and then Joseph had to change Benjamin's diapers.
No. That would be awesome. But I don't think the boys would do that. That was probably Dinah. Sorry. Yes, Dinah.
How dare you?
I know.
She's the only sister. Get her name right, for God's sakes.
So yeah, that was probably her job, is my guess. So that's kind of where we've left off. So Jacob's living in Canaan. Joseph, we're kind of reintroduced to Joseph right off the bat. So we're starting off in Genesis 37 in a row. Yep. We're starting off in Genesis 37. And we find out that Joseph is 17 years old.
Okay.
At this point.
So this is after his mom died.
Yes.
But we don't know how long this is after his mom died.
Correct.
So Benjamin is either also old at this point, or like picks up right after he's born, and Joseph is 17 years older than his brother.
It could be, it could be anywhere in there.
But there's at least a 17-year gap.
If I remember right, Isaac though died after Rachel died.
Okay.
So there's some time that passed there.
But they're no more than 17 years apart, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I would say that's
okay.
So Joseph is 17 years old, and we find out he's a snitch.
Oh.
He's a tattletale.
Right.
It says that
everyone loves a tattletale.
Yeah. It says that he was out tending to the flocks with his brothers, and he brought their father a bad report about them.
What were they doing? Were they fucking the sheep?
Probably. Yeah. No idea. It does not say. It's interesting because
I have a lot of complaints about the Bible.
Yeah.
To be fair, but one of my biggest complaints, like who wrote this and wasn't like, they're gonna want to know what that is. Like, here's the report he brought back.
Yeah.
Like, what's just a miss in plot?
Oh, you're in for a real treat with this story then. Because it's full of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, no, they don't tell us why. They just tell us, it's almost like they just want to let us know, by the way, he's a tattletale.
Yeah. Snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also know that Israel, aka Jacob.
Right.
They keep going back and forth with the names, but that he absolutely is a favorite. Joseph is absolutely his favorite. What?
I was like, we should make an amalgam of his names instead of just calling him Jacob. But then I was like, nope, because the first one that popped in my head is very inappropriate.
Right. I feel like we had to edit that out in the first episode too.
Probably. It's just really funny. It keeps popping in my head. You guys can figure it out on your own.
Right. So Jacob definitely favors Joseph, like way more than the other kids.
His first born son with the wife he actually loved.
Yes.
Makes sense.
So he makes him an ornate robe.
Okay.
Which is the
Technicolor Dream Coat.
Which is the Technicolor Dream Coat.
It's this Joseph.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you remember that.
I do know of Joseph and the Technicolor. It's not called the Technicolor Dream Coat. It's called the Coat of
No,
Many
it
Colors.
is.
Oh,
and,
is it?
And there's like a little TM next to it, trademark.
Is
Technicolor? No.
No, that's the name of the musical.
Yeah.
It's called like the Coat of Many Colors or something like that.
No, it's just called an ornate robe.
Oh, okay.
That's all. We don't even know if there are colors on it. Maybe it's just got like dangly bits. Who knows? we really don't know how it's ornate.
Tassels.
Yeah, it could be anything. But so this is the Technicolor Dream Coat. Do you remember the musical at all? Okay.
I don't. I just know that it's called Joseph and the Technicolor.
Yeah.
And there's roller skates or something involved in the musical. I can't remember if they roller skate.
I don't remember that either. It's funny.
It was very Andrew Lloyd Webber in the 70s.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The I watched that musical many times growing up.
Well, then are there roller skates?
Not that I remember, but that's what I was about to say is, but every time it was over, I had no idea what happened.
Oh.
Like, I just never could keep the story of Joseph in my brain for some reason.
So yeah, the music was from Andrew Lloyd Webber, and the lyrics were by some dude named Tim Rice.
Okay.
I just had to double check to make sure I was right with that whole Andrew Lloyd. I didn't want to,
lead people astray.
Right.
Right. It's important that we have standards.
Yes, exactly.
That's good. Yeah. Like I said, he had this ornate robe. Joseph has a couple dreams.
Oh, with the coat? Yeah.
It doesn't say he was wearing the coat at the time, but sure. But he had a couple dreams. He had one where, and I'm not going to get too deep into these dreams, but he had one where like he was harvesting grain, and like his stack of grain was bowed down to by all of his brother's stacks of grain, right? And then he had another dream.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You just kind of flew past that. So I'm sorry. He had a dream where his stack of grain. So I'm thinking like, you see like those bundles of grain that are just piled up in the field, right?
Right.
And his was in the middle.
Yep.
And his brother's stacks of grain were leaning basically towards his stack of grain.
Exactly.
That's a weird dream.
That is a weird dream.
Okay.
Could be worse, but
is it going to get worse?
No.
Okay.
His and then he has another dream where he himself is bowed down to by 11 stars and then also the sun and the moon.
Okay.
Right? And he tells his family about this, and Jacob immediately is like, does that mean like myself and your mother are going to be bowing down to you, And he basically freaks out the family.
Right.
Like they're all kind of like, he's a weird kid.
Yeah. He thinks we're all going to bow down to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
the ego on this kid.
Dude, you're only 17.
We give you one Technicolor Dream Coat and you just run with it.
Starting to think that the Dream Coat was made out of like
LSD.
LSD.
Right.
Somehow.
One thing that was interesting, though, is he does say your mother there. Jacob does. Your mother and I will bow down before you. It looks like the consensus online with some debate about it is that Leah took over as his mother after Rachel died.
I got you.
And that's probably what that's referring to.
Okay.
But also,
like, did they believe in heaven at that point? And they had to have, right?
I don't know. I can't remember to say for sure what the belief on the afterlife is at this point.
Okay. But there's a stairway.
There is a stairway to heaven.
Yeah.
So they must believe in a heaven. I don't know if that's considered like where you go when you die at this point or not, but
because just because she's dead doesn't mean like they're not cognizing that like they'll be together in heaven again and still bowing down to him.
If that's the case, they never explain that.
Right. So, well, there's there's as we discussed many plot holes.
Yes,
in this
there
book.
are for sure. So anyway, all that's to say, his brothers hated him.
Right, because he was an arrogant little prick who also told on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a little cunt.
And he was daddy's favorite.
Right. He was a cunt.
So he goes out to help his brothers tend the flock one day, and his brothers see him coming in the distance, and they decide, you know what? We're going to fucking kill him.
Oh, wow. They really just took that to the limit, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They went really hard.
They were
that
like,
way.
We're going to hide on him or play a joke on him or like get him to fuck a sheep and then invite everyone to come see him. They're literally just like, let's kill this fucker.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then one of their brothers, Reuben, who, if I remember right, is the eldest.
Yep.
He was like, let's not kill him. I tell you what, let's throw him in this empty cistern right here. Okay. And then,
he gets out and then it's on him.
And Reuben's mindset is like, I'll just come back later and get him out of there. And he'll have a shitty day, but he'll be okay.
Right.
Right. And then I don't remember why. I don't think they even say why, but Reuben kind of pisses off for a little bit. After they've thrown him in they threw him in the cistern. They took his robe and his Technicolor Dream Coat and they throw him in the cistern. And then Reuben goes off.
Yeah.
And these merchants come through who are on their way to Egypt.
Okay.
And the brothers are like, let's sell them to these merchants.
Oh.
Sell them into slavery.
That's what everybody wants to buy is a 17-year-old boy.
Well, probably.
Oh. These people never dealt with a 17-year-old boy if they want to buy a 17-year-old boy. Because they are the worst.
I mean, for a different reason. They probably want to buy one. I would say
even for that reason.
Yeah.
It's not worth the effort.
Yeah. That's fair. It's
fucking whiny the whole time.
Where's my dream coat? This is boring. Are we there yet?
Yes. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So they take his dream coat and they dip it in animal blood And they present that to their father as evidence that like he was torn apart by some wild animal.
Okay.
Right. And then Reuben comes back and sees that he's not in that cistern. He thinks he's dead. Not that it ever comes up again, but he thinks he's actually dead.
Okay.
And the other brothers know that he's just off in slavery.
Right.
So, Jacob mourns and all that stuff for his favorite son being killed and all that. And then Joseph is off to Egypt.
Being enslaved. Not that people who buy 17-year-old boys for slavery purposes are like the most like upstanding citizens in the world, but like I would still think there's some sort of bill of sale that occurs or like papers that are needed when you buy somebody from.
I mean, I would imagine they probably would have thrown those away if there was like a receipt.
Well, not even that, but it's like this it's just a boy in a hole. Like they're just like, is this even your boy to sell? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's in a hole. So kind of he is, yeah.
But there's
nothing he can do about it, so therefore he's ours to sell.
With the way like tribes and like villages would like go at each other back then, you would think just with a little bit of caution, they'd be like, well, we don't want to just buy a random boy in a hole.
What if he's a prince or something like that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What if it's just a prince who fell in a fucking hole because he's stupid and inbred?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's weird they don't go into that. But yeah, so they sell him.
Okay.
And then we get this really weird side story just out of nowhere. So we get introduced to the story of Joseph, and then they just go into the side story about one of his brothers, Judah. And we hear like what happens for the rest of his life.
Is this the guy that's in the whale?
No, that's Jonah. Yeah,
but
that comes much later.
And this is not Judas.
No, that comes way later.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Judah. Judah is actually the line in which through Jesus comes.
Okay.
And I kind of want to get into that in a minute, actually.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, Genesis chapter 38 just takes a whole side subplot to this. Not even a subplot, it's just a side story.
Right. Like when you're watching a television show and it's got the main plot, but like one of the side characters has something zany going on throughout. Right. Yeah.
Kinda, except this only happens in this one chapter and then that's it. So Judah meets this girl. We don't know how old she is.
Let's just assume it's 12.
Yeah. And we don't know her name either. She's just referred to as the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua.
Okay.
He marries her, has 3 sons. Okay. He gets a wife for his eldest son named That's the son's name.
Okay.
The wife's name is Tamar. And then the Bible says here, but Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death.
So the Lord kills How? Does it say?
How?
Yeah.
No, they don't say how.
What?
No.
Why? They
don't say why either.
They got to lean into those God killings, man, and be real descriptive.
Right? You would think. They don't describe why.
They just say he was wicked. So you don't know why he was wicked.
Right.
You barely know anything about Judah.
Right.
Let alone and like how this happens within. You assume it happens within the storyline that's happening with Joseph.
Yeah, it specifically says at the beginning of this little story here that this is happening like basically right after
Joseph
what happens with Joseph.
Gets purchased. So Judah's older. He has to be, right?
Right.
To be at the point where he has 3 kids and one of the kids is old enough to get married.
Well, yeah. So right after he sold Joseph into slavery, he would have gone and met that daughter of Shua.
And then
and then they have. So this is like literally this story is happening as all this other stuff is going to happen to Joseph while he's gone in Egypt, right?
And does this tie into Joseph's story at any point?
Not at all. Nope.
Okay. All right.
But we're going to go down this rabbit hole anyway.
Curious about what Judah's got going on.
Exactly. That's totally what this is. So dies. Okay. And then Judah says to his second born son, Onan, you got to step up for the family and bang your sister-in-law. Okay. Not even marry.
Just bang her?
Just bang her.
Okay.
Apparently. And then because she needs to have a kid.
Sure.
Right. Otherwise, what's the point of having a woman around? Right. Unless she's having kids. He lays down with her and everything, but his mindset is any kids that she has will take away from any inheritance he will get because it's technically his brother's share.
That's so funny, even though it would be his kid.
Even though it would be his kid.
But because it's his brother's wife.
Right.
And I assume if this is normal Christian rules, right, you're married to somebody until you die, even if they're dead.
I guess so, yeah. Then at no point do they ever explain these rules.
Unless you're a dude, because then you can marry multiple people.
Apparently, yeah, you can. So he invents this really crazy form of birth control that's actually still to this day called onanism.
Okay.
Where you pull out, get this, before you finish.
Right.
And that's called onanism.
That's called onanism?
That's actually a term for it.
And we just call it pulling out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's actually called onanism.
That's against God's will.
It is, actually, now that you mention it. It says he spilled his semen on the ground.
Naughty.
To keep from producing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also.
He masturbated. But, he didn't masturbate. He fought.
Well, he probably did.
He fought.
Probably, in order to finish, I would imagine.
And it got on the ground.
Yeah, it got on the ground. It's kind of like a flag.
Threw it on the ground.
It's kind of like a flag. You're not supposed to allow it to touch the ground.
What would have been a better punishment is to have little ground babies pop up from his spilled semen, and he has to take care of these little ground demon babies for the rest of his life. Little dirt monsters.
Oh my God. I feel like if Darren Aronofsky made this story into a movie like he did with Noah, that's what would happen.
Just pop up and, Daddy.
Oh God.
Fuck. This is worse than the other thing I was trying to prevent. Clearly.
They're all going to take my inheritance.
They're probably going to eat me in the middle of the night, really.
Yeah. So 2 of the 3 brothers are dead here.
One we know it's because he let his cum hit the ground.
Yeah.
The other one we have no idea why he was wicked.
No idea. Judah.
He was probably gay.
Maybe. I don't know. So Judah says to Tamar, like, wait till Shelah, I think it's his third son's name. Yeah. Wait till he grows up. Wait till he gets a little bit older. Then, you can be with him.
That's what every girl wants to hear.
Right.
Wait till this 12-year-old is old enough to fuck you.
Right.
Because that's what all women want to do. Yeah. Just look at a 12-year-old and think, I'm going to fuck that someday. That's so fucked up.
Yep. So he tells her, go live with your father until he gets older. And
she's gonna get knocked up by somebody else.
Well, so at that point, Judah's wife, Shua's daughter, she dies.
Okay. Oh, does Daddy take her?
Some time passes basically, and we don't know exactly how long this is, but at some point, Shelah is grown up, and Tamar is like sick of waiting. So Tamar gets dressed up like a prostitute. Basically, goes and sits by the side of the road where she knows Judah's going to be walking by. And Judah comes by and uses this great pickup line, come now, let me sleep with you. So, yeah. And then there's a bartering.
Does he know who she is?
No, because she's wearing a veil.
Okay.
It says specifically she's wearing a veil.
Gotcha.
But
he's into purchasing sex. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
I don't think that's right.
It doesn't seem like it, but he's not married, so it's okay for him.
He is married. His wife just died.
I know.
That's right. The rules don't matter for penises.
Nope, they don't. Then they barter over the price, which I thought was kind of
funny.
and
her?
Yeah.
Oh. Women were allowed to barter?
Apparently. When you're a prostitute.
This is going all over the place, this story.
But he ends up saying, like, I'll send you a goat. I don't have it on me. So here's my staff and seal to take as collateral.
Okay.
And
seal? Staff and seal?
Yeah. They don't explain the seal, but I'm guessing it's like a stamp type of thing.
Oh.
Like to say he is who he says he is.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So she takes that stuff and they have sex, and guess what happens?
She gets pregnant.
And then he sends somebody with a goat to go find her and pay her back. And they can't find the prostitute anywhere. They ask around. People are like, there's never a prostitute on that street. And so they're just like, I don't know. I guess you lost your staff and seal. So 3 months later, somebody comes to Judah and is like, hey, your daughter-in-law has been working as a prostitute, and now she's pregnant. Right. So Judah, at this point, he's lost his 2 sons.
Right.
And his wife.
Right.
And with all that death in his life, he just practices like untold grace and says, bring her out and have her burned to death.
But he hasn't connected the dots that he
hasn't connected any dots yet. No. But you can kind of fill in the rest of the story pretty easily. Like they are about to burn her to death for being a prostitute. And she presents the staff and seal. And he's like, oh my God, I'm the one who knocked her up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so therefore it's okay.
Right. We won't burn her anymore.
I do think it's kind of funny. They specifically say, and he did not sleep with her again. And then the story ends with this one really weird paragraph, and I kind of want to just read it out because it's such a odd way to end the story. But it says, when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, this one came out first. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, so this is how you have broken out. And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was given the name Zerah. Really weird ending to the story, isn't it?
It is. And they put such a fucking weird... I guess it's because you need a firstborn to like be the inheritor, right? And if they're twins, there's not technically a firstborn, but they really go through all kinds of rigmarole to call out who the firstborn is.
Yeah.
And if I were the secondborn, I'd be pissed because I'm like,
we were in there together.
Right.
Like, this is completely arbitrary.
Yeah. I know.
I pulled that motherfucker back in here and pushed my way out. And you want to give his pansy ass all of your fucking goods? That doesn't make sense to me.
They're like, listen, baby.
Fuck this fucker. You should put him back in. He ain't done yet. Look at him. He's so soft-headed. I'm already talking. And he's just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that is just the weird, and it just ends there.
Ends there. So I did some looking into it, and apparently Perez is part of that line that leads to Jesus.
Okay.
In the first chapter of the book of Matthew, it kind of kicks off with the lineage of every generation from Abraham through David to Joseph.
Right.
Jesus' stepdad.
Right.
Right. And there's all these prophecies throughout the Old Testament about the Messiah being in the genealogy of like a descendant of David.
Okay.
Right. What's interesting though, that I've never noticed before until going through this now, is that Jesus isn't a descendant of David. Joseph was.
Right.
His stepdad.
Yeah.
Right. Legally, even in the footnote of this, it said that, but since Joseph was married to Mary, legally, Jesus is a descendant of David. But he's not actually a descendant of David.
He's not a biological descendant.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just this weird thing, like, that I happened to notice. And I don't think that that's why they added this in. Maybe it is. Maybe because there was all the prophecies in the Old Testament about what the lineage would be of the Messiah. Maybe they added this in. I don't know.
Right.
But it's just an odd thing that I happen to notice in this. And
it's not even like, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it's not even like Joseph had sex with Mary and built the building blocks of the baby. And then God was like, poof.
That one's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally God got Mary pregnant.
That's the idea. Yeah.
She was a virgin.
Even
though they were married already. It wasn't like they were.
I don't think they were. It's been a while since I've read it, but I think she got pregnant and then they got married. If I remember correctly.
Okay.
Because it would be really weird if they were married and he hadn't
had sex. Yeah, that's what I was going for. But we don't. I mean, we get into that when that time comes.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, and that's the story of Judah. That's the thing that they decided to inject right into the middle of that.
Right.
And then we go back to Joseph, and we go back to Joseph for the rest of the book of Genesis to chapter 50. So then we pick it back up, and Joseph has been sold into slavery. He's in Egypt, and he's sold to this guy named Potiphar.
Okay.
He's the captain of the guard for Pharaoh. And it says that the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered and he lived in the house with his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. And basically Potiphar puts him in charge of everything in the household, does not worry about anything that is under. Yeah. Doesn't worry about anything that's under Joseph's
He's
command.
Who's Batman's guy again? Oh my God.
Alfred.
He's his Alfred.
That makes Potiphar Batman, but yeah. And I don't think Potiphar is very Batman-y. but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He's that level. But of course, what did Potiphar see in him? This kid was sold into slavery, and yet somehow Potiphar's like,
Jesus is not Jesus, obviously.
God. Yeah.
God is with him.
Not only is God with him, but God is showing him favor and success in everything he does.
As a slave.
But he's a slave.
Right. Well, not to get political, but we all know how slave owners feel about their slaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they think that because they're being held by them, who are clearly good people.
Oh, yes.
That they're lucky, right? Because they could have worse owners, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah. So, but they don't say what the guy saw to make him think that God was with him.
Good hand jobs.
Right. Maybe. I am kind of curious about how many people in this story are just bi.
Yeah.
And they're really into Joseph. We do also find out here that Joseph was well built and handsome.
Ooh.
So well built and handsome that Potiphar's wife really takes a liking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she keeps using this great line, "Come to bed with me." That's her subtle way of
super
seducing
subtle.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he?
No. He keeps refusing to do so.
Oh, well.
Until one day when she's like, "Come to bed with me." And he's like, "No." And she grabs him by the cloak and he runs off and leaves the cloak behind.
His dream cloak?
No.
That's right. That's back at the place with the blood.
By the way, that's the last we ever hear about that Technicolor Dream Code.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's it.
There's a whole musical based on it.
I know. I kept thinking when I was going into this that it was going to be a big part of it too.
Oh my goodness. That's fucked up.
I know.
I expected there to be like a whole 20 chapters about what this amazing coat did.
Nope. It's one chapter that shows up and that's it.
Wow.
And it doesn't do anything.
Now we have to watch the movie.
The musical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I need to know what they pulled from that to make a whole fucking musical/movie about it.
I know.
I'm pretty sure they did a cartoon about it too.
Probably. I can't imagine they haven't. So she grabs his cloak, he runs off, and she's like, he tried to rape me, is essentially what she's saying.
Now she has the cloak and she can be like, he left this here.
Yeah. This is a great chapter to read, by the way, if you're really into like cheesy soap opera dialogue, because she even at one point goes, look, this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she convinces Potiphar that he was trying to
rape her. Even though she was trying to get all up in his goods since the beginning.
And for some reason, Potiphar believes her, gets pissed off, and sends him to prison.
Okay.
Right? And then it says that while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him.
Of course.
And showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge.
Because he's a snitch.
Yeah. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Sold into slavery, then sent to prison for something he didn't do.
Right.
And yet God is showing favor and giving him success in everything he does, and no explanation for what they're seeing to make them think that.
So wardens think that snitches are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a snitch in a prison and you're telling the warden about everything that's going on in the fucking prison, then you're going to be his favorite.
That could be. That they don't mention it in here that he's still snitching.
Well,
but maybe.
I mean, I would only imagine snitches don't just quit that.
No.
All of a sudden.
Sometimes snitches get bitches.
Sometimes snitches do get bitches.
Yeah.
And he's probably just got a real like hardworking demeanor. Where, you know what I mean? Like he's just like, I don't want to die, so I'm going to do whatever these people tell me to do.
It might be.
And that is God being with him and giving him success.
It might be.
Making him very amicable?
Amiable?
Amiable?
I don't know. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get your point, but yeah,
he's a fucking pussy. I guess
we just don't know. Yeah. And that's the thing that bugs me about it is, like you were saying, why would you not include what they're seeing in him? You know. So Jacob is in prison, and then sometime later, Pharaoh has this cupbearer, and a baker who piss him off, and we don't know why.
When it comes to pharaohs, you can just assume that it could be anything.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
So they piss him off, and he sends them into the same prison that Joseph is in. Right.
Okay.
And these guys both have a dream this one night, two separate dreams. About a coat? No. The coat never comes up again, Lindsay. It never comes up again. Let go of the coat, Lindsay.
All right, fine.
But so they have dreams, and I'm not going to get too deep into it. They have Joseph interpret the dreams, and Joseph is like, well, yours to the cupbearer means that you're in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to restore you back to your position. And you'll be,
wow.
And you'll be
very specific dream interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll be back to your station. And when you do, remember me and put a good word in Pharaoh's ear about me. Get me out of this prison, basically. Right. And then the baker's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Here, let me tell you my dream. And Joseph's like, yeah, in 3 days, you're going to be impaled on a stake.
So don't remember my name.
Yeah. And then that's what happens, of course.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the cupbearer forgets about Joseph.
God's going to have something to say about that.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. So,
how does one learn? He's 17 when he gets sold. Some time has passed. We don't know how long, so we don't know how old he is at this point.
Not specifically. We do get some more touch points along the way about his age at different places, but yeah.
But we can imagine he's like maybe in his 20s at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I would say so.
So where did he learn how to interpret dreams? Like, not only interpret dreams, because like you could tell me a dream and I could be like, well, that just means you're nervous about your job interview or something like that, right? You know what I mean? Some of them are just super obvious. But interpret a dream to the point where you're like, in 3 days, you're going to go back to the palace and you're going to be impaled on a stake.
Right. Well, I can say this, like the 3 days part has to do with
like 3 sheep in the dream, or
on my head were 3 baskets of bread. That was the 3 days for the baker.
Okay.
And in his case, birds were eating the bread.
Okay.
But
again,
and same for the cupbearer. There was like something about 3 vines or something like that.
Sure.
3 bunches of grapes. Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Like,
how is that days and not years?
And like, how do you get like bird eating the bread out of a basket that like the dude's going to be impaled? Like, where did he pick this skill up?
Right. And not only that, it's not even really a skill. It's like, it has to be divine inspiration.
Oh, God told him.
Yeah, essentially. But not that they say that.
Right.
You know, but yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea behind it. 2 years later, we actually get a specific amount of time for some reason here. 2 full years later, Pharaoh has some dreams. One of which is basically that there's some healthy fat cows coming out of the Nile River, and then there's 7 healthy fat cows coming out of the Nile River, and then 7 skinny, sickly cows come out of the river and eat the healthy cows.
Oh, is this the Pharaoh from the Moses story?
No, this is generations before that.
Okay.
And then he has another dream where it's basically the same thing, but with stalks of grain heads of grain instead of.
So the healthy grain or the sick grain eats the healthy grain.
Yep. Right. Yeah. One thing I thought was kind of funny is this one verse where it just sounds very modern. It says, "Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream."
Which implied that he thought it was actually happening.
Right. Oh, God, the grain's going to eat me, too. So he called all the magicians and the wise men of the area. Yeah, and he's like, interpret these dreams for me. They can't do it. All of a sudden, cupbearer's like, oh, hey, I actually know this guy. He's in prison, so he's easy to find. And so they get Joseph. They clean him up, give him a change of clothes, shave him and everything, bring him before Pharaoh.
All of him.
This is when I realized why I really hate this story.
Okay.
Because it's so repetitive. They literally go through the dreams again, almost verbatim. And
they can't. So that shit pisses me off because like they could have just said, obviously, like, and he tells him the dreams that we've already heard, right?
Right.
From reading the Bible, but they skip over explanations of things that we actually want to know, but they tell the dreams twice.
Yeah, exactly. I know. That's what bugs me too about this is they get way over descriptive and repetitious about the stuff that we don't need to know anymore about.
Right.
But then they don't tell us why Joseph was seen as being favored in the eyes of the Lord.
Right. Right.
Like, I just don't get it. And we don't find out why was killed.
Yeah. Or that even the fucking dude's wife's name.
Yeah.
Like they can't even bother to mention her name.
Shua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get to hear these fucking dreams twice.
Yeah. And it happens several times throughout the story. So it's really like, it was a very boring read because of that. So Joseph interprets these dreams. He's like, basically what it means is God is revealing to you that there's going to be 7 years of plenty of abundance, 7 years of abundance.
And then winter is coming.
And then winter is coming. There's going to be 7 years of famine.
Okay.
Right. And he says, what you need to do is put somebody in charge of taking 1/5 of all of the produce from 7 years of abundance, store it for the 7 years of famine.
Gotcha.
Right? And guess who gets put in charge of that?
Joseph
does. In fact, Pharaoh makes him second only to himself in all the land of Egypt, puts him in charge of the entire kingdom of Egypt.
Wow.
Doesn't even know if these dreams are going to come true.
Right.
Doesn't know if he's right.
He's just the first guy who was like, yeah, here's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other guys were like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. None of them even tried.
I guess. I can't remember. There's a couple different stories about interpreting dreams, and I might be getting messed up, but I think they might be like, nobody can interpret dreams.
Oh.
I can't remember if this
the magicians were like, that's a bunch of horse shit. Nobody can do that.
Yeah. It just says that no one could interpret them.
Okay.
So
interesting. So because Joseph was literally like, yeah, man, I know what those mean. Pharaoh's like, this is my dude.
Yeah.
This is Egypt's dude.
Yep.
He's my VP.
He said what I wanted to hear, so therefore he's great.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly what he's talking about.
He's going to be in charge of you and you and you and you and you and all of you and our food. We're all going to give him some of our food so that he can store it for when we all are going to starve.
He's going to be our little squirrel.
Because he said at some point in time, we're going to starve you guys. We can't do that.
Right. We're Egyptians. We can't starve.
No. We have a river.
So he puts him in charge of everything. He also gets him a wife, and he has 3 kids.
Okay.
We find out that he's 30 years old at this point.
Okay.
So
he's been there for 13 years.
13 years. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, he's taking in 1/5 of the harvest. It specifically says that so much of this food was coming in that he lost count.
Wow.
Not that this ever comes up again, but I just think it's funny that they included that, because it's like, you had one job.
Yeah.
To keep count of how much food came in.
It is a time of abundance.
So. It is, though. But that's, what they're doing is illustrating just how much
the abundance was great.
The abundance was great. And then, so they go through the 7 years of abundance, and then the famine sets in. Basically, everybody in the kingdom has to come to Joseph in order to get food.
He's the grocery store.
He's the grocery store. Yeah, he's and he's in charge. Does he
become a real dick about the whole thing?
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
We kind of like, they don't paint him as a dick, but then everything they say about it kind of sounds like he was being a dick.
Okay.
And we'll definitely be getting into that, but probably in the next episode.
Okay.
So yeah, any thoughts about it before?
Well, I mean, how far away are they from where they were living? How far is do you know?
Canaan from Egypt.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can find a map.
Does the Bible have a map?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It has a few maps.
All the brothers know that he's not dead, except for the oldest brother, and then the dad thinks he's dead, right? So what was the oldest one's name? Reuben. Yeah. Reuben thinks he's dead, and dad thinks he's dead. All the other brothers are like, dude's not dead, but we don't care.
Right.
At no point do the dad and Reuben like hear about the dude in Egypt who's basically ruling Egypt underneath the Pharaoh, whose name is Joseph. And they're not like, well, Joseph's not a super common name these days.
Yeah.
We should go check out this Joseph dude and see what he's all about.
He might have been going by a different name. I don't know.
Okay. Just seems weird.
Yeah.
Like, he seems like...
They do run into him face to face.
Do they?
And they don't recognize him.
Really? Well, I guess it has been some time, maybe.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out in the sun. He's probably all golden and shit.
Golden.
Yeah.
He's all golden.
Golden tan.
Yeah. So this map that everybody can see... So this is approximately the area of Canaan, as I understand it. And then Egypt is like down here.
Okay. That's a distance.
Yeah. This is the desert that they get lost in.
Sinai?
Yeah. During the Exodus story.
Okay. I feel like the Bible does a lot of like exalting the worst person in the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like you had Esau and Jacob.
Yes.
Right? Jacob was the worst.
Yeah.
He literally lied to get his father's blessing, right? And then was a huge pussy when it came to dealing with his uncle, because his uncle was like, yeah, you can marry this one, but just kidding, you have to marry this one, and then you can marry this one, and you have to keep working for me, and blah, 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 blah. And he was just like, whatever, I got to do. Like, but then he became the guy, right? Yeah. He's the guy. Esau just had to fuck off eventually.
Right.
In the land that he had been living in, because Jacob showed up and the land couldn't sustain both of them.
Right. So then he had to leave.
Right. Esau, who had been living there, building this kingdom for all this time that Jacob was off fucking with his cousins. And then one of his children, like literally all his brothers hate him, and they sell him into slavery and then lie and say that he's been killed. And then he spends the next, 13 years licking butt, basically, to get where he's at. And now all of a sudden he's running fucking Egypt.
Right. I was actually thinking in the middle of reading this really must be a young executive's favorite Bible story, because it's all about your bosses constantly giving you recognition and promotions for no apparent reason.
Right. Yeah. You know? They see something in you.
They just see something in you.
And usually it's that you're kissing their ass a bunch.
It probably
That's usually what it
and
is.
Snitching on the others.
So it's crazy, because I know. Is it in the Bible that the meek will inherit the earth? Is that from the Bible?
That was Shakespeare.
Was it Shakespeare?
No, I'm just kidding. It was. It's in the Beatitudes.
Okay.
It's one of the things that it's one of my favorite verses.
The meek will inherit the
earth.
Yeah. I guess maybe then if that is like the one of the overall like ideas behind the Bible, then yes, all of this makes sense, because the worst ones. But I guess that's not meek. Right?
No, they don't exemplify the character traits that was in the Beatitudes, like what you're talking about, where it's like the meek will inherit the earth, peacemaker. Like, it's good to be a peacemaker. I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but it's good to be a peacemaker. It's good to be humble and things like that.
Yeah, these aren't those guys.
These guys don't exemplify that.
So it's real sort of like, how do people read this and follow these people's lives and not think like, well, these are the worst characters.
Right.
Why are they following the worst characters?
Yeah.
It's like watching Aladdin and then being like, I hope Jafar wins. He's got real go get him attitude.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm.
Scar totally should run the fucking lions.
The Lion Pride.
King. Yeah. He wants to. You should let him. He went through all the effort of killing his brother. He should clearly rule. Like, that's totally what those stories are, except then they do rule after that. The worst people are getting the benefit. That is what I'm learning. Yeah. Is that I need to be real shitty if I want to like fucking rule the world someday.
And that's totally a fine narrative to have. I think like it's kind of good. Like I dig a good anti-hero story, but the anti-hero needs to learn a lesson by the end.
Yes.
And that's the thing that kind of bothers me about this is nobody's learning any lessons. No. Nobody has picked up any.
Jacob had balls enough to be like, God, if you like make me your main dude, I'll give you half of whatever fucking shit I get or something like that. It wasn't even half.
You're talking about when he had the dream about Jacob's ladder.
Yes.
I think it was. I think that was when that happened. He said he would give a tenth of everything he has to God. Yeah.
So, and God's like, let's chill.
Yeah.
And then he wrestles God.
And then, and
then beats God. And it's just, all of it is like, I'm not getting any sort of pleasure from these guys getting into the positions that they're in. I'm not impressed by their behavior.
Yeah.
I'm not like, go get them, guys. You really were the underdog and you're taking it over. It's more like, no, everybody wanted you dead.
Right.
And somehow now you're running a country.
Yeah.
It feels really like current.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean.
Now I have a lot of insight into the way this country runs.
Yeah. I know. It really does. It really does light it up. Because, it'll be interesting in the next episode when we kind of go through the rest of this and how the story kind of wraps up with this family.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty apparent that God has taken them on a fucking journey.
Sure.
You know, whether you like these characters or not, there is a journey that they have gone on from being pretty humble beginnings to something a lot bigger.
As we mentioned before, historically, they're then's Kardashians.
Yes. Historically, they were the first Kardashians, yes. Complete with a few sex tapes and
right.
So yeah, stay tuned for the next episode when we find out what is it like when the brothers meet back up with Joseph. Will they get along? Probably not.
Next episode on Jerry Springer.
Yes. They all lived miserably ever after. Thank you so much for listening to Bible Stories for Atheists. For more information or to reach out, please go to BibleStoriesForAtheists.com or bsfa.cc. This is boring. Are we there yet?